So here we are for part two, ladies and gentlemen, of the white paper for Antigua and Barbuda TC deal. And we're going to start off where we had ended in part one. The core issues for Antigua and Barbuda. Right? Let's get to this, ladies and gentlemen. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
With no legal pathway forward, Antigua Six, the core issues for Antigua and Barbuda. The government's examination of the matter has identified a number of core issues. A. Sovereignty and control. Antigua and Barbuda cannot accept a standing operational pipeline under which persons are sent as a matter of routine or expectation. Any arrangement must preserve Antigua and Barbuda's complete discretion to approve or refuse each proposed individual and to determine the number, if any, to be accepted at any given time.
So, there will be if there's any agreement, they're making it clear. Listen, this is not going to be a river that widens. It is going to be a very, very narrow stream that is controlled. And at some point, if any, we should need to lock off the stream. Alright? In a very, very common terms, let's continue.
The legal status on arrival. No arrangement can responsibly proceed unless there is clear understanding of the legal status of any person upon arrival in Antigua and Barbuda, the conditions of stay, and the legal basis on which Antigua and Barbuda would receive and regulate such person under its own laws. The legal complexities of status upon arrival are addressed in detail in Section 2 above.
So, the legal ramifications, which any responsible government would have to take very seriously, right? Have to take very seriously. No arrangement can responsibly proceed unless there's a clear understanding of the legal status of the persons. All right? Clear. Let's continue.
C. Vetting and information. Antigua and Barbuda must receive adequate information in advance to assess every proposed case. This includes biographical, biometric, medical, criminal, and relevant protection claim information. A small state cannot safely accept persons about whom only partial or qualified information is available. D.
Now, this is the part where I believe Headboy was saying on Colin Bell's show that basically Antigua and Barbuda told America no without telling them no. The detail in which where the vetting process is. Biographical, biometric, medical, criminal, relevant protection claim information. These persons have to have all those things in detail, else them not taking them. It just means we're not taking them. They made it impossible, almost impossible, ladies and gentlemen, for any deal to come to with these particular, rules of engagement. Very, very smart. Like and share the video, ladies and gentlemen.
D. Financial and administrative burden. Antigua and Barbuda cannot assume the costs of another state's migration policy. Reception, settlement, accommodation, healthcare, welfare support, security support, administrative processing, and onward or return arrangements all carry financial and operational consequences. Those consequences would weigh heavily on a country of Antigua and Barbuda's size unless fully covered in advance.
So, that means potential expenses would have to be given to Antigua and Barbuda for these individuals. Because they have decided that they are not going to take on any costs because of a policy and a migration policy of a different state. Why should I, you know, why should the people take on those burdens financially? But we did hear um, Dennis Chang say if the person wanted to stay and they go through the process of trying to become a citizen, and for whatever reason they were not granted, um, the state would have to take on the cost of sending them away. But when you read this, you're gonna reach a wall where that is concerned in many cases if you're not careful. We can go up back to the top here when he talked about, the legal gray zone. This part right here. You understand what I said? And then I understand why Antigua and Barbuda is taking this approach. When you hear, everybody has heard. When they hear the gentleman say, the most despicable human being. This is Antigua and Barbuda protecting themselves from any potential of the most despicable human beings coming to their country so that they can protect their citizens. This is what really that shit does, ladies and gentlemen. Which we have yet to see because the government of Jamaica has not been transparent. They have been all over the place with this issue. They have been caught in so many lies. There's so much misinformation and disinformation coming from their own lips. Wow.
Advance. E. Humanitarian and international legal obligations. Antigua and Barbuda is committed to acting consistently with its international obligations. It cannot participate in any arrangement that I. Risks breach of the 1954 Convention on Stateless Persons specifically and the principle of non-refoulement, and 2. Exposes persons to persecution or torture, or leaves them in legal and humanitarian uncertainty. F. Social and public policy impact. The reception of non-nationals deported by another state is not a neutral administrative matter. It may affect public confidence, the labor market, pressure on housing and social services, and wider questions of social cohesion. Any arrangement must therefore be kept within limits that Antigua and Barbuda can absorb responsibly. 9. 7. Antigua and Barbuda's assessment of the U.S. drafts. The government's assessment of the U.S. draft operating procedures has been careful and consistent. The original Memorandum of Understanding preserved Antigua and Barbuda's complete discretion and non-binding participation. Some of the subsequent U.S. drafts moved away from that framework by proposing a standing monthly transfer arrangement, by using language of expectation rather than firm obligation with respect to non-admission and return, and by leaving Antigua and Barbuda exposed on matters of cost, settlement, legal status, and operational responsibility. Of particular concern were proposals that contemplated the transfer of persons with expedited removal orders, proposals that relied on criminal or medical information only to the extent known or available to the United States, and proposals that did not contain a binding commitment by the United States to meet the full cost of reception and settlement. The government also carefully considered a separate template under which Antigua and Barbuda would itself approach the International Organization for Migration for assistance. That approach was considered premature and unsatisfactory in the absence of settled written terms with the United States, since it risked shifting initiative and operational responsibility to Antigua and Barbuda before the substantive issues had been resolved. 8. Antigua and Barbuda's counterproposal. The government of Antigua and Barbuda has therefore formulated a counter proposal for operating procedures. That counterproposal is based on 5 principles. First, case-by-case sovereign discretion. Antigua and Barbuda would retain complete discretion to approve or refuse every proposed transfer. There would be no standing entitlement on the part of the United States to send any person, and no standing obligation on Antigua and Barbuda to receive any person. Secondly, strictly limited eligibility. Only persons with final orders of removal would be eligible for consideration. Persons subject only to expedited removal too would be excluded. Also excluded would be unaccompanied minors, persons with pending asylum or other protection claims. Expedited removal is a procedure under U.S. law that allows rapid deportation without a full judicial hearing, which means such persons may not have had adequate opportunity to assert protection claims. 10. In the United States and persons with criminal records other than immigration law violations. Thirdly, a limited.
By the way, if you have any other criminal record outside of immigration law violation, you can't come Antigua and Barbuda. Hello? Respect, Splash DJ. I really that is. Really that is. Una see them claims, yeah? First case by case, a case by case. Strict, limited eligibility. The man them narrow. The type of people them. Strict rules as to who can come here. Why may I tell you, hey, there's several, couple other Caribbean leaders who wish was the leader of my country. Presently right now. No lies told, ladies and gentlemen. This government is an absolute failure. Failure to care for the people, failure to protect the people, failure to create the opportunities for persons to be elevated and grow. Just a failure. My goodness, let's continue.
Limited arrangement for 2026 only. Given the size of Antigua and Barbuda's economy, institutions, and absorptive capacity, the total number of persons contemplated under the counterproposal would not exceed 10 in calendar year 2026. There would then be a review in 2027 in light of actual experience, national capacity, and national interest to determine whether any further cooperation should be contemplated. Fourthly, full funding and settlement responsibility before departure. No person should depart the United States unless the United States or another competent international or other agency acceptable to Antigua and Barbuda has agreed in writing in advance to bear the full cost of reception, settlement, accommodation, subsistence, healthcare, welfare support, security support, administrative processing, and any onward or return arrangements relating to that person.
Yo, let me tell you something, man. This a man you now play. No, me know what head boy when I talk about. When him call in for Colin Bell show. Yo, the man I make sure say, yo, any cost at all will not be absorbed by the Antigua. If them fi leave and go back where them fi go, I own have to go pay a fee. We need written statements, agreements, contract on that. It's a man I now play, brother. You think America can agree to this? The man basically I tell them say, yo, hell no. To the no, no, no. Hell to the no. We won't take none of them. Remember me tell you that. Style the man use for America right there, so. And well respectful to using the law in defense and the sovereignty of his country. But you only can do this when you're not compromised, when you're not a corrupt leader. You understand? Tell your boy.
Person. The government will not grant approval for any transfer unless a binding written commitment to full financial responsibility has been received and accepted. Arrival of any unapproved or unfunded person will be treated as a violation of the arrangement. Fifthly, protection of Antigua and Barbuda's legal and sovereign position. The counterproposal preserves Antigua and Barbuda's right to determine the legal status and conditions of stay of any person received in accordance with its own laws and international obligations. It also preserves Antigua and Barbuda's right to reject on arrival any person not previously approved or whose documentation is materially incomplete or inaccurate and requires the immediate return of such person to the United States at U.S. cost. The counterproposal further preserves Antigua and Barbuda's right to suspend implementation, in whole or in part, at any time in its own judgment, and to discontinue participation with notice through diplomatic channels. 9. The question of reciprocal benefit. The government considers it necessary to state plainly that full funding, full vetting, clear legal status, and express return responsibility are minimum protective conditions. They are not, in themselves, reciprocal benefits. If Antigua and Barbuda is to contemplate receiving third country nationals who are not its nationals in order to assist the United States with the practical execution of its migration policy, there must also be a clear and commensurate reciprocal benefit to Antigua and Barbuda in the national interest. This should include the lifting of any 11. Blanket visa restrictions on nationals of Antigua and Barbuda. Although Antigua and Barbuda accepts the right of the U.S. to deny visas to any persons who, on an individual basis, it regards an ineligible. Such reciprocal benefit would have to be identified clearly, reduced to writing, and capable of objective value. Goodwill alone is not sufficient. Nor can vague expectations of favorable treatment elsewhere be regarded as an adequate foundation for a decision of this kind. The government will therefore proceed, if at all, only on the basis that Antigua and Barbuda's national interest is expressly protected in legal, financial, operational, and reciprocal terms, unless Parliament resolves differently.
Andrew wanna say him play chess, but this a man a master class for the chessboard, ladies and gentlemen. Not only is Antigua and Barbuda not willing to take on any financial costs, but they have an ironclad legal detailed terms that will make sure that they're not legally liable by international law or their own laws of their country. And to add to that, the man must say, for us to do this for your brethren, any form of blocking of visas, restriction that need to go. When can Andrew Wallace do this? With all of the criminals them within the Jamaica Labour Party where USA watch. When can Andrew Wallace write this to the United States and say, these are my terms to protect the Jamaican people and to also give us some type of leverage. The man is leveraging United States desperation to get rid of these people, while at the same time protecting his citizens. He put them in an impossible position. America can't agree to this. This is saying, I will not take the TCN. As a matter of fact, he has not even come to any conclusion about taking anybody. They must be discuss this first. This man is a genius, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know who is their legal team, but this right here is ironclad, baby. Let's continue.
Differently. 10. Why Antigua and Barbuda has not accepted a standing program. The government wishes to make clear that Antigua and Barbuda has not adopted a posture of hostility or refusal for its own sake. The contrary is true. From the outset, Antigua and Barbuda has approached the issue in a spirit of friendship and cooperation. It has not done so because it wishes.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap. No bullshit, bro.
No, after the man they sticky money with a hard stabbing at their neck in a man with the restriction them, man they say, listen, no, we are friends. We're being cooperative. Don't think that we're being harsh. You know when your mother beat you and your mother say man take up alcohol for rub off it, the infection off your wound them and it's still a sting, although you when I burn before now it a sting. Yeah, the light sting, that sensation there. Yes, it is called psychology, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where a lot of people that in a more serious case in terms of personally when you are abused, this level of psychology will have you thinking that your abuser is actually your friend and they want the best for you. I'm telling you, the political mind games that is being played in this white paper, I appreciate it, man. All in protection of its citizens, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue.
Wishes to become a destination for other states' deportees, but because it judged that it was better to engage seriously with a request made by a friendly country and to define strict conditions than simply to react without examination. It signed a non-binding memorandum of understanding. It considered the operational drafts put forward by the United States. It identified concerns in a measured and constructive manner. It formulated its own counterproposal rather than merely declining further discussion. Friendship between sovereign states is expressed in mutual respect, not in the assumption that one party's domestic difficulties become another's permanent obligation. Cooperation does not require a small state to assume open-ended responsibilities without adequate safeguards. The government would fail in its duty if it did not insist on clear terms where sovereignty, law, public finance, security, and social stability are engaged. Antigua and Barbuda already accepts the return of its own nationals from the United States. That is one matter. The organized reception of deportees who are not its nationals is another. It cannot become a standing expectation unless arrangements are devised that do not impose unbearable weight on already overburdened small countries. 11. The government's present position. The government's present position is therefore as follows. 12. 1. Antigua and Barbuda remains willing to engage the United States on this matter in a spirit of friendship and cooperation. 2. Antigua and Barbuda will not accept a standing monthly transfer program. 3. Antigua and Barbuda will consider proposed cases only on a case-by-case basis and in the exercise of its complete sovereign discretion. 4. Only a limited number of persons, not exceeding 10 in 2026, could be contemplated, and only if the conditions set out by Antigua and Barbuda are satisfied in writing. 5. No person may be accepted unless eligibility, documentation, funding, settlement responsibility, legal status, and return arrangements are all clearly secured in advance. 6. Antigua and Barbuda reserves the right to refuse any proposed person, to reject any unapproved or improperly documented arrival, and to suspend or discontinue any arrangement in its own judgment. 7. No international organization or third party will be engaged on Antigua and Barbuda's behalf until the substantive terms of any arrangement have been settled to the government's satisfaction. 8. These positions will remain unless the Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda resolves differently. 12. Conclusion. This white paper sets out the government's present assessment of the issues. Arising from the proposed reception of third country nationals removed from the United States, the principles that have guided its approach, and the terms on which any cooperation could responsibly be contemplated. The government and people of Antigua and Barbuda have had long and mutually beneficial relations with the people of the government of the United States, including the hosting of U.S. bases on Antigua for many years as part of the national security network of the United States. The government is willing to be helpful to the administration of the U.S., including by considering accepting a limited number of persons in 2026 on an experimental basis, subject to the terms we have counter-proposed to the U.S. government, but any arrangement of this kind must be lawful, limited, fully funded, carefully controlled, and plainly consistent with Antigua and Barbuda's sovereignty, capacity, and international obligations. The government invites Parliament to consider these matters and, if it sees fit, to endorse the principles and conditions set out herein as the framework for any further engagement with the United States on this subject.
Hey, I say salute to Antigua and Barbuda. The way them approach this TCN deal conversation, them exhibit excellent leadership. And them lay it all out on the line in the parliament for everybody understand what they have proposed to the United States. I don't think the United States will be doing any deals with Antigua and Barbuda. The details that they have proposed, just the paperwork alone, the complete paperwork of these people alone, I don't see how they are going to be able to guarantee all those things, ladies and gentlemen. Especially when we look at what the lawyer on Colin Bell's show had stated. I don't see how they're going to do it. This white paper sets out the government's present assessment of the issue arising from proposed reception of third country nationals removed from the United States, the principles that guided what that? An accident that? The principles that have guided its approach and the terms on which any cooperation could responsibly be contemplated. The government and the people of Antigua and Barbuda have a long and mutual beneficial relationship with the people of the government of the United States, including the hosting the US bases on Antigua for many years as part of the national security network of the United States. The government is willing to be helpful to the administration, including by consideration accepting a limited number of persons in 2026 on an experimental basis, subject to the terms we have counter proposed to the U.S. government. But any arrangement of this kind must be lawful, limited, fully funded, carefully controlled, and plainly consistent with Antigua and Barbuda sovereignty, capacity, and international obligations. Come on now. Very clear and cogent, ladies and gentlemen. This was part 2 of the Antigua and Barbuda statements around the TCN deal. And if I was a member of that country, I can tell you, I would be confident. If I was confident in my leaders, I would be even more confident in their approach, in their their capacity to make sure that they have our best interests at heart where this conversation is concerned. I don't think we can say the same here in Jamaica. And this is why leadership matters, ladies and gentlemen. This is why leadership matters. You understand? So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section, man. That's part 2. That is 2 of 2. Alright, all 13 pages of the document.